where do the Miami Heat stand in a Damian Lillard trade? Because as more time goes on, it seems less and less likely that this picture right here will become a reality. So today's show, I break down the latest surrounding the Heat and Damian Lillard, which is why you should subscribe to the channel, because I will always have you guys updated with the latest trade information surrounding Mr. Damian Lillard and the Miami Heat. Our next goal on the channel is 5,500 subscribers. We're about 250 away. If we get there on today's video, that would be dope. But hit that sub button if you want to be the most informed Heat fan or, honestly, NBA fan on the planet. But let's get into what the Heat are up to with Damian Lillard. And I will have to ask the question, is a Dame trade dead to the Miami Heat? I'll say this right now. I do think the Heat are still very much in a potential trade and in that Heat or in the Damian Lillard trade sweepstakes. But every day that has gone on over the past 2 or 3, I should say, it seems less and less likely that he is going to be a member of the Heat. And it is no longer a lock that I once thought it was. Why? Because the Toronto Raptors' interest is absolutely real, and they are threatening to swoop in just like they did with Kawhi Leonard in 2018 and make the move for Damian Lillard. We'll start with what HP Basketball said on the 5 on the Floor podcast from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. They're really good and probably the best Heat podcast out there, so if you want more Heat information, go check them out as well. But this is what HP Basketball said. The Toronto stuff is just leveraging. I heard things were red hot on Thursday, and again with Masai walked away and then came back. I wouldn't worry about the Raptors, which kind of confused me, to be honest, because he said that the Damian Lillard Raptors talk is real, and it was in deep discussions, and Masai Ujiri was talking deep with Joe Cronin, but then he said he walked away, came back, and then don't worry about the Raptors? How can you tell me that they were having serious conversations and in deep trade talks where it was considered very hot, but then I shouldn't worry about them? That quote made no sense. But then Michael Grange, who does a great job of covering the Raptors, said this the other day, and this clears things up in my eyes. By all accounts, the Raptors seem at least reasonably confident they can maneuver their way to the front of the line past the Miami Heat, Lillard's preferred destination, and ahead of a team such as the Brooklyn Nets, who have the draft picks to get something done if Portland is open to taking on the last 2 years of Ben Simmons' contract. And I don't disagree with Michael Grange. I think the Raptors have a very legit trade package they can send for Damian Lillard. They have good trade assets. You see him on screen. Scotty Barnes, Grady Dick, Precious Achiuwa, Christian Koloko, and a boatload of first-round picks where, because they have a lot, they can space them out, send 26, 28, 30, along with 2 or 3 other pick swaps. And now you're really talking about a package that makes a lot of sense. And just before we started filming this, Mark J. Spears said that a couple executives inside the NBA believe the Raptors are actually the front runners now for Damian Lillard. And they wouldn't be surprised if Dame ended up being dealt to the 6. And that's where I'll ask you guys. Be honest with me. Are you guys concerned about Toronto trading for Damian Lillard? Type Y for yes, type N for no. They've come in and swooped in and got Kawhi Leonard before. Would they do it again with Damian Lillard? My take, I do think they could very easily pull this off. And it all starts with the man you see on screen right now, Mr. Scotty Barnes, who has been very good in his short tenure in the NBA, has shown a lot of promise, and is a very good 3/4 for any team in the NBA. And if the Blazers seriously don't care about Damian Lillard's preferred destination, which is obviously still the Miami Heat, and the Raptors are able and willing to include Scotty Barnes in a Dame trade package, I think it might be over for Miami, because when you think of Scotty Barnes, Grady Dick, maybe one of those 2 big men of Koloko and Precious Achiuwa with 3 first-round picks, no offense, Miami, but that actually is a better trade offer than what the Heat can offer. So it's all about if the Raptors are willing to send Scotty Barnes, and if the Blazers, are actually okay with just spitting in the face of Damian Lillard and sending him to Toronto, then I think the Raptors could absolutely swoop in and get this deal done and cuck the Miami Heat. Coming up, though, when is a Dame trade happening? I've been saying, and I thought it was going to happen last week. Evidently, I was wrong, just like basically the entire offseason thus far. But I do think the deadline for Damian Lillard is like right here. And we'll talk about that in a second. But first, today's Miami Heat report is sponsored by Prize Picks. New sponsor alert. Woo! And I'll tell you guys this right now. If you love sports, you must head over to Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America and is available to play in 29 states. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. I have had so much fun testing my skills during this football season so far, and I can't wait till the NBA season arrives. If you guys have similar skills to mine, which unfortunately you probably don't, you can turn $10 into $250 with a few taps with the most exciting daily fantasy app on the planet. Another positive Prize Picks, they allow quick withdrawals and have easy gameplay with an enormous selection of players and stat types, which make playing DFS so much fun. And if you're wondering what my picks are for tonight's Monday Night Football game, because I am still waiting for the NBA season to get here, I love Matthew Stafford to have more than 253.5 passing yards. I think he's got to air it out against that Bengals defense. Devontae Smith, I'm taking the more on his 5 receptions. Jalen Hurts loves finding Smitty in that 5 to 10 yard range. And then my last pick of the night, Rachaad White, less than 48.5 rushing yards. That Philadelphia front four is very, very difficult to run on, and I don't love the Bucs offensive line. So go to Prize Picks right now and use code CLNS at prizepicks.com/CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. One more time, prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, back to Damian Lillard now. And are things heating up, pun intended, not for Miami, but just on the Damian Lillard trade market, because I do think a trade happens this week. You ask yourself why I think that? Well, Blazers Media Week is a week from today, allegedly. It's not actually set, but usually teams have their media day the day before training camp opens, and for Portland, training camp opens October 3rd, so October 2nd, next Monday, would be their media day. And we know that the Blazers do not want to bring this Damian Lillard trade mess into training camp because they're going to have to answer a lot of tough questions at media day, and then obviously Lillard being in the building because he said he will report so he can get that cash and not get fined. Scoot Henderson, Sharp, and Simons, are going to have a lot of weird developments and situations. So we know the Blazers don't want to bring that into camp, which is why I think the next 7 days, Damian Lillard will actually be traded, and that is a hard deadline for me, and I really think that is when it ends. But now I want to talk about Greg Sylvander because he went on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, 5 on the Floor podcast, and said an interesting trade framework for Damian Lillard that the Heat would get them. And this is what it is. And this is obviously a lot to take in here, but it's a massive 4-team deal. The Heat, allegedly in this framework, would get Damian Lillard, Buddy Hield. The Blazers would get DeAndre Ayton, Kyle Lowry, Jaime Jaquez Jr., multiple first-round picks, more from the Heat, couple from the Pacers. The Suns would get Yusuf Nurkic, TJ McConnell, and Caleb Martin. And the Pacers play facilitator, getting Tyler Hero. And when you just look at this 4-team deal, it is absolutely fascinating. One, because there's a lot of moving parts there, right? You have 4 teams. You have a lot of young players leaving the Heat. You have the Heat getting Buddy Hield as well. The Blazers get first-round picks, Ayton, Lowry. It's a lot of salary to take in, plus Jaime Jaquez Jr., who we know was on the Blazers draft board, and they probably would have took Jaquez at 23 if the Heat didn't take him at 18. But if you look specifically at what the Miami Heat would get in this trade, your new starting backcourt would be these 2 guys, Damian Lillard and Buddy Hield. And these 2 are absolutely amazing at shooting the basketball and scoring the basketball. These 2 guys on your screen right now would be 2 of the top 5 best shooters in the NBA. So the Heat starting backcourt would feature 2 of the best shooters in the league, and you pair that up with the slashing ability of Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and the playmaking of Jimmy and Bam, and now you've got a really, really good top 4 for that Heat starting lineup that would just be so dynamic offensively. But obviously, you're losing 4 key players in that projected deal: Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, and Jaime Jaquez Jr. It'd be interesting to see which young guy goes, but seeing Hero and Martin both in the deal is intriguing. But I think I would be willing to part ways with all 4 of these guys if it meant getting Buddy Hield as well as Damian Lillard. But you also get to keep my sweet prince, Nikola Jovic. So now I'm very intrigued by this because you keep Jovic, you get Dame, and you also get Buddy Hield. It's an all-in move that would leave the Heat roster looking like this, and you can't really complain about this roster. I mentioned the starting lineup having 2 of the best shooters in the NBA in that backcourt with Jimmy and Bam in the front court. I believe they would start Kevin Love at the power forward position for the experience, with Josh Richardson being the 6th man, Jovic as the 7th man, Bryant as the backup center, Duncan Robinson as another shooter, but then you'd also have Haywood Highsmith and Orlando Robinson on that bench. This Heat roster would be the best in the association with this deal getting done, and if this deal actually is the one that gets finalized, which I doubt it is exactly, I would 100% have the Miami Heat winning the NBA Finals. So with that being said, you see this trade on screen right now. If this was the one that gets done, would you accept or decline this as the GM? This gets offered to you. You're ready to go with it. Are you accepting or declining? Let me know in the comment section. Before we head out of here, I got to show some love to my main man, Nikola Jovic. Also, just look how much muscle he added to himself. Like, it's actually ridiculous how much weight he put on through his first season. You remember, he came in scrawny, and it was his biggest weakness because he couldn't absorb contact at 6'11", 217, and he was getting injured all the time. But now he's yoked, as you see in that picture. But he actually did graduate high school finally, so shout out to Nico. Congratulations to him. All right, make sure you follow me on Twitter before we head out of here, at Nic_Rohloff, because if the Damian Lillard trade does happen or doesn't happen, you'll find out about it first on my Twitter, and then I'll go live or make a video for you guys. So follow me on Twitter if you want to stay updated with everything Miami Heat.